Welcome to worship tonight. I am so honored that you are joining us here this Holy Week. We have so much in store for you this Easter, and you can find out all of those things on our Easter website that we've created, www.easterwithcalvary.com. Go and check it out. Tonight is a night in the church that we call Maundy Thursday. Now, I want to explain to you just real quick before we get started what Maundy Thursday really means. I mean, it's kind of a weird name, Maundy Thursday. When I was a kid, I was convinced that people were saying it was Monday, Thursday. Like, how did those 2 days end up being this one thing? But it's not Monday, Thursday. It's Maundy Thursday. So the word Maundy, it actually is a part of the word mandatum, which actually means mandate, if you look. It's a kind of an Anglo-French word. More directly, mandate, it means commandment. So Maundy Thursday is Commandment Thursday. It's this day where God gives us this new commandment. It's this day in Holy Week where we look at what Jesus did on the very last night of his life, right before his arrest, before he goes to the cross on Good Friday. So here's my question for you tonight on this Maundy Thursday. If you knew you only had one more day to live, what would you do? If you only had one more day to live, what would you do? When I think about this question, I kind of waffle between two different scenarios. The first I think about is I would travel. I would grab my husband and my 4 children, and we would travel, and we would go to all these places that I haven't seen yet. But then if I think about that scenario too long, I realize that that means then a quarter of my time, or maybe a third or half of my time on my last day to live would probably be in the act of traveling. And I just really want to see those places. So probably not travel. So the second thing I think about if I only had one day left to live would be to just gather my family together, gather my siblings and my kids and my husband, and just spend the whole day together doing the things that we probably kind of already do. We would eat slow, delicious, good, full-fat meals, and we would go for a walk together or spend some time in nature, or we'd play games together. Maybe we'd worship together, probably because I'd have some anxiety knowing that it was my last day on earth, and we would pray together. I think we would snuggle on the couch and we would pet our dog as much as possible. If I only had one day left, I would want to spend it with the people I really, really love. If you knew you only had one day left to live, what would you do? Would you do something really crazy? Would you go just way out of your comfort zone? Something that you always maybe wanted to do, but didn't because you were afraid of dying? Would you go skydiving or bungee jumping? Or would you just hold a super giant, awesome party? Would you try something that you were always afraid to try? What would you do if you only had one day left to live? So it was about 2,000 years ago when Jesus entered into Jerusalem and he began his teachings. And his teachings, if we're honest, they offended people. They really offended especially the religious people, the people that were in the temple, the Pharisees and the scribes. And Jesus, he kind of called them out. He called into question their hypocrisy and how they exploited the least, the last, the lost, and the lowest in their communities. And how these Pharisees, these religious people, they saw themselves as better than other people. And so these people, the Pharisees, they started to plot to kill Jesus. They were after him, and they wanted to get rid of him once and for all. And here's the thing, Jesus is Lord, so Jesus knew that this was going to happen. And this was all during the time of Passover. And Passover is this big Jewish festival, and it was held in Jerusalem, the one that is still continuing to go on just this week in Jerusalem. It's where Jewish people remember that God delivered them from slavery back when Moses was with the Egyptians. One of the ways that Passover is celebrated is by sharing a meal all together. And all the parts of this Passover meal are parts to remind them about the Exodus, about their freedom from the Egypt story. So Jesus knew all of this was going on. He knew Passover was going on, and also that these religious uppity-mups, they were trying to get him. And so Jesus even knew that one of his friends, Judas, was going to come and betray him. But yet Jesus still continues to share this Passover meal with his friends and followers. So what does Jesus do when he knows that he has only one day left to live? This is how the Bible tells it in the book of John. It was just before the Passover festival, and Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and return to the Father, having loved those who God had given him, and he loved them to the end. The evening meal, the Passover meal, was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all these things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So Jesus got up from the meal, and he took off his outer clothing, and he wrapped a towel around his waist. And after that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. What does Jesus do when he knows he has one day left to live? He washes feet. That's right. He washes feet. I mean, this whole past year, we've talked a lot about washing our hands, but washing feet, that is a totally different kind of thing. Washing feet was considered the lowest of the lowest for the servant of the servants, usually some young servant girl that was part of the household. This is what Jesus does. Let's continue the story. Then he came to Simon Peter. Jesus came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" And Jesus replied, "Well, you don't realize what I'm doing, but later you will understand." "No," Peter says, "you shall never wash my feet." And Jesus says, "Unless I wash you, you will have no part with me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter answered, "don't just wash my feet, but also wash my head as well." And Jesus said, "No, those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet, because their whole body is clean. And even though you're clean, not every one of you." For Jesus knew that Judas was about to betray him, and that's why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and he returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and that is right, because that is what I am. But now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you should go and wash one another's feet. I have set for you an example so that you should go do for other people what I have done for you. Very truly, I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor the messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now you know these things, and you will be blessed if you do them." So what does Jesus do on his very last day? He washes feet. He washes feet to set an example for those original disciples, and he washes feet to set an example for you and for me. With Jesus' last day, he doesn't choose to travel or snuggle with some kids on the couch or pet a dog or hoop it up with a big party or go skydiving or bungee jumping. Jesus, on his last day, he chooses to wash people's feet. And friends, this is what Maundy Thursday is all about. This is what the new commandment, the new mandate is all about: to serve, to humbly take a position among others, to serve the least, the last, the lost, and the lowest in our community and in our families. And if we're honest, too often we're like the Pharisees. We are all hustling to look for our place on top of the social structure, trying to make connections with the people that we think might better our future, or if we're honest, sometimes we use people in our lives. We strive to make sure that our kids are playing with people like their hockey team or the dance team that can help them excel, or that we live in a house that other people will envy and admire. We try and get the right friends, and we make the right clothes, and we put on our Midwestern, "I'm super fine" attitude, and we try not to be too open so that we can feel like we are more on top, like we have it all together. But this is what Jesus is teaching us on this last day. This is what Jesus teaches us by washing dirty, gross feet. This is what this new commandment looks like. It takes us out of ourselves and into the needs of others. It draws us out of our narcissistic tendencies to think about ourselves and to protect ourselves, and it causes us to be pushed in this new commandment to care for others. But it's interesting because suddenly when I'm doing this, I get less worried about my own things, and I get less concerned about what I'm going to eat tonight, and more concerned about if someone is going to eat tonight. It's through Christ's foot washing that we are called into this new commandment. We are called into servanthood. Servanthood, it's a really interesting thing because it asks us to release the control that we have on our lives and to follow wherever God is leading us. And sometimes you're led into the dirty water. Sometimes you're led into the messiness or the stink or the toe jam of this world. This messiness of both our own messiness and the messiness of our neighbor. We get to walk alongside each other in the messiness of this world, in the stuff that just plain stinks in our lives. Things like sadness and depression and loneliness and conflict and illness and anxiety, all those things that we just can't control. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm happy to always sign up to volunteer for things. But sometimes on the day of whatever I'm volunteering for, I find myself kind of grumpy about it. I start thinking about the things that are in my house or the Netflix show that I'd like to finish instead of going to go do that volunteer project. But then I go because I committed to it, and something happens to me. I feel something outside of me, something that draws me out of my own ego, something that pulls me into empathy for another, something that builds a little spark in my stomach, something that makes me want to do more. So what would you do if today was your last day? I mean, it might be. It might be my last day today. Jesus calls us this Maundy Thursday into this new commandment, into this new way of being in the world where we honestly look at the muck and the grime and the imperfections of this world, and we choose to go into those things anyway. We serve because Jesus has freed us to do so. We help each other because Jesus helps us. We dig in because Jesus showed us how to do it. And we get our hands dirty for the sake of another person because Jesus got his hands dirty for us. Friends, there are still more feet to wash. So as the body of Christ, let's do this new commandment, this new Maundy Thursday together. Amen. you.